Hello my royal lovelies, welcome back to the channel, and as always, welcome to my home. I have a few things on my little checklist to get through today. I just want to start by saying in the UK it is absolutely freezing. It's June and it's supposed to be summer, but we're not having a good one. It's actually 15 degrees inside the house today, so it's a bit chilly. I even had my hot water bottle out last night. If you can see a tail, it's my cat Bo, who's just decided to come up and eat some food. So we're in the kitchen today. So sit back, relax, and we will talk about some stories. So first of all, I want to lead with the story about D-Day, about all the D-Day, I suppose, commemorations. So D-Day happened in 1944, and I always actually wondered what D-Day stood for. I've always known it to be to do with the Normandy landings. I've always known that a great many thousands of people lost their lives. It was the start of the end of the Second World War. So I've always known it to be incredibly important and very poignant. And we've always commemorated it in the UK. I remember, doing things about it at school, but I didn't actually know what D-Day stood for. And if I did learn it, I forgot a long time ago. So I wanted to just do a quick refresh. So I did Google it, and I'm going to read you what I found. So the D does not stand for deliverance, doom, or debarkation, or similar words. In fact, it does not stand for anything. The D is derived from the word day. D-Day means the day on which a military operation begins. The term D-Day is still used for military operations, but to the general public, it is generally used to refer to the Allied landings in Normandy on the 6th of June 1944. So there you go. I did not know that. So you learn something new every day if you just delve a little bit deeper. So I hope you've learned something today as well. So incredibly poignant, and it is the 80th. Can you believe it? 80 years. Wow. And my granddad fought in the Second World War. He was in the Navy. He actually fought on the Russian convoys. So, this sort of strikes home for me as well. And I think many, many people across Europe, around the world, will have relatives, probably relatives that have since passed on, who fought in the Second World War. And probably many relatives who lost their lives during service. So it's a very important thing to remember and commemorate, least of all at the 80th anniversary. So, as always, the British royal family lead when it comes to public life. We do have the involvement of politicians as well, serving politicians of the day. There was a big furore over our current Prime Minister, Conservative Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, who attended certain events and then left early. It caused him humongous issues. It did not go down well with the public, and he ended up having to apologise for leaving early. Of course, we do have elections on, but that is no excuse. This is more important than any commitments or anything that you arranged before. You stop things and you attend the full commemorations, if you like. So, of course, the King, back to working health, I should say, accompanied by the Queen Camilla, sort of led the events, and it was really, really fantastic to see him out there. And talking to veterans, you saw him bending down, talking, really connecting with the people. And the same goes for Queen Camilla. Prince William, the Prince of Wales, stepped up, of course, on his own, minus Catherine. We all know why. I'm going to say this every single time because it's important to remind people. We know where she is. She is at home, recovering, going through treatment and recovering from, the effects of her cancer diagnosis. So we know where she is. All this speculation that's still up in the air about where's Kate? We know where she is. She's at home, going through treatment, recovering. When she's better, we'll see her. So it was fine that we had Prince William instead. And he did a fantastic job, stepped up. And I think he really is looking like the statesman that he will have to be when he becomes king eventually. Probably, I don't like to speculate, I don't want to lose my head being sent to the tower in terms of speculating on the king's death, but probably within the next 20 years he will be in that role. So it's very, very important that he steps up and takes on these important roles now, so that he's as prepared as Prince Charles was before he became king. And I think that is very, very important. I'm just going to jump slightly onto, because I think it flows quite well, onto how William and Catherine are preparing Prince George for the same role. We are seeing Prince George mainly coming out at more kind of low-key sporting events. So I say low-key, football, all this kind of thing. Things that I don't have any interest in, my loves. But it's great that William and George bond over sporting activities. They are a sporty family. Catherine's very into her tennis and all the rest of it. So Prince George going out there, sort of sitting in the crowds, in public, getting used to the cameras, getting used to, the attention, I think is very important. And also spending that time with Dad bonding, I think is vitally important. And it's that kind of slow introduction to public life that I think Prince George needs. And of course, that will trickle down to Charlotte and Louis as well in due course. But I think, it is very important, as we have seen from recent events with William and Harry, that they are prepared, that all of those children, all of the Wales children are prepared for what the future is going to bring. It is going to bring attention. It is going to bring media scrutiny. And it will bring a lifetime of service and duty, should they wish to take that on. I don't think Prince George really has much of a choice, but certainly Charlotte and Louis, they do have a choice whether they carry on their careers for as long as possible. We know that Prince Edward did carry on his sort of media career for as long as he possibly could. And then obviously it catastrophically failed and he went to public duties, whereas Princess Anne just left school and went straight into public duties. So they will have a choice, but, Prince George has a little bit less. Although, he could follow his father, Prince William's, Prince William had a career for a little bit longer, basically. He went into the search, air and rescue. He was a search, air and rescue pilot. So whatever. They do need to perhaps have a little bit of a career. And I think it's good that they have a little bit of career experience before going into royal duties. But as we have seen, Princess Anne didn't, and she has been absolutely fantastic. Anyway, back to D-Day. So, on a very trivial level, I did love what Queen Camilla was wearing. Princess Anne always knocks it out of the park with whatever she takes part in. She always has that kind of, crisp style, I think, that is associated with Princess Anne. And of course, she recycles clothes all the time. I do like to see her wearing some... I love it when she rewears some of her mother's clothes, as she has done in recent months. So anyway, the D-Day celebration, commemoration, I say celebrations, commemorations, with regard to the royal family went extremely well. Didn't go so well for Rishi Sunak, but anyway, it went off without a hitch for the royals. They did their duty. It was great to have the king. And yeah, we are now looking forward to the king's birthday, official birthday, not his real birthday, trooping the colour. So again, we are not expecting to see Catherine. If you've seen any updates about Catherine attending Trooping the Colour, she's not at the moment. Whether or not we'll get a surprise balcony appearance remains to be seen when we have the flyover, but we will reserve judgment. There could be a bit of a surprise and a bit of a shock. It would be a welcome one, but I'm not holding my breath on that one. For the second year running, it is believed that Harry and Meghan did not receive an invite to Trooping the Colour, so I don't think we'll be seeing them. Again, if we do see their faces popping up on the balcony, it won't be like whack-a-mole. No, it will be a big shock. But anyway, we will see what we see when we see it, I suppose. Now, sticking on the theme of Harry and Meghan, there has been reports recently from sources close to the king, so I think this is quite possibly true, that he's been kind of putting out there about his relationship with his grandchildren, Archie and Lilibet, which he has only met a handful of times. Now, let's put aside family drama for a moment. This is not a video where I'm going into the whys and what fors of Harry and Meghan. I know quite a lot of people don't even think that they are real children. A lot of people, still think that there were moon bumps involved. So I'm not talking about any of that. But what I do want to talk about is what we do know. And what we do know is that King Charles has accepted Archie and Lilibet as his grandchildren. And the one thing that I think, most grandparents, I think, feel is that they want to be close to their grandchildren. And sometimes grandparents feel like being a grandparent is almost like a second chance at being a parent. And you can have all the fun and then hand them back to the parents. So I think King Charles, potentially has made a few mistakes in the past when it's come to parenting. He's had it difficult, with the loss of Diana, bringing up William and Harry by himself, dealing with their grief, dealing with being Prince of Wales, all the scrutiny. It's not been easy. So, I think he does try and make a big effort with his grandchildren. That is, of course, if he has access to his grandchildren. So he's kind of put out there that he doesn't think that, the odd video call here and there is enough. And I would agree. I think a grandparent does, need to see their grandchildren. And I think the children benefit from seeing a grandparent as well. I know I certainly benefited from having both sets of my grandparents. Now, the one thing we do know about Archie and Lilibet is that their grandparentage is a little bit limited. So, obviously, they don't have Diana. That cannot be helped. They do have King Charles. And, of course, they do have Doria, and they do have Thomas Markle. But because of the way things have gone with Harry and Meghan, Thomas Markle is off the cards, and relationships have been strained between Harry and the King. So, really, Archie and Lilibet are kind of grandfatherless at the moment. I mean, obviously, they've had contact via video call with King Charles, but it's not like sort of being there in person. So, they have very limited grandparent experience, and I do think that is a little bit sad. And of course, Harry and Meghan could make it so much different. They could just come over on a plane, take advantage of the sort of ad hoc, random security that Britain is still providing them, because we still are. It's not official, they're not entitled to it, but pretty much every single visit that I've seen Harry come over on, there has been a police escort. So that hasn't materialised by itself, it's come from somewhere. So it's obviously been sanctioned by Ravek when he's informed them that he's coming. So they could, of course, come over, and they could, of course, accept an invitation to stay in a royal property, or they could just stay in a fancy hotel, whatever. But I do think that they are kind of withholding the children from King Charles. And I hope that they are not using the children as leverage, because that would be a bit of a wicked and cruel thing to do. So, I don't know what's going to come of this, but if what is coming out of the palace is true, King Charles does want to have a relationship with his grandchildren. And I think that is fair. Regardless of whether or not he has a healthy relationship with Harry and Meghan, he does still, I think, have a business in terms of having a relationship with his grandchildren. I think that is fair and proper. And I think that the grandchildren would benefit from finding out a little bit more about their British heritage, where they've come from, and the institution to which they widely belong. So I thought that was interesting, a little bit of information coming out. Is it a little bit of a softening from the King, not towards Harry and Meghan, but perhaps towards, making things a bit easier to see the grandchildren? Now, we know that the king offered royal accommodation for Harry when he came over. Harry refused. So, you know, and I do think that Harry plays the media game. You know, he claims that he doesn't want to, you know, talk to this tabloid or that tabloid, but he's quite happy for the media to kind of put out and make people think that he's being snubbed by the king and the royals, when in actual fact it's the other way around. You know, an offer was made to stay in a royal property. Harry refused. But he's perfectly happy for the people to think that an offer was not made, if you catch my drift. So yeah, I think that was, you know, very, very, very interesting. The final point I want to talk about today is, I've spoke about it before, about this £8 million that's coming from the Queen Mother's legacy, her will, some money that she left in trust. So let's just clear a few things up, because there's lots of comments and there's a few points that I want to address. So a lot of people were saying, well, if she was in debt, how on earth could she leave all this money to her great-grandchildren? How could she leave this provision? And the answer is that it wasn't actually debt, it was more an overdraft. So just to clarify, she went about £4 million at the time of her passing into her overdraft. So an overdraft would have been secured against money that she had, assets, blah, blah, blah. Maybe even, you know, a promise from the Queen that she was going to pay the bill once anything happened to her mother. So I don't really know why she didn't just have the money to pay it off without going in the overdraft. No idea why. But anyway, she went into her overdraft, and that was kind of widely reported as debt. But she had enough money to cover it. I think she was worth 50, 60 million pounds at the time of her passing back then. So that's an awful lot of money. And then I think over 7 years before she passed away, she put, I think, over a third of that money into a trust for her great-grandchildren. So this is excluding money that she left for grandchildren, although the bulk of the estate went to the Queen, so sovereign to sovereign transfer. And then the Queen left quite a lot of the artwork and stuff to the nation as part of the royal collection. So that's kind of how the money was distributed. So there was money left over. So this legacy, her will. Now in the UK, wills are very, very difficult to overturn, and they're very, very difficult to change. The executor of the will's job or role is to make sure that, well, what is in the will happens at the time it's supposed to happen. So this trust fund for the great-grandchildren will have grown in interest over those years. So whatever it was when she passed away, it's probably tripled, which is why the figure of £8 million has been reported for Harry for when he reaches his 40th birthday in September. So I am not in any way, shape or form thinking that £8 million is an outrageous amount of money. I think that is an accurate figure when you factor in the growth over that period, that investment growth, which it will have been invested. Diana's legacy doubled since her passing, so we can expect the same from the Queen Mothers. What people were saying, and I looked where this information came from, but a lot of people were saying Princess Anne is the trustee or the executor of the will, and she has decided that Harry cannot have the money until he can be trusted. So I thought to myself, this is the first time that I've heard this story. Where's it come from? Is it true? So I did a little bit of digging. So I typed in those details, of course, into Google. You can find anything on the internet on Google. And that linked back to quite a few YouTube videos. And I don't know which YouTube video was the original source, but I think lots of different YouTubers or YouTube channels picked up on this original story that I think came from social media, and then it's been repeated and repeated, a bit like, you know, those whispers, and therefore it's become kind of folklore. So I actually did some digging. I went into, I searched newspaper articles from back when the Queen Mother passed away. I also looked at what information we did have about her will, because there was an outline of the will provision. I cannot find anywhere that Princess Anne is a trustee or an executor of the will. I cannot find any evidence of that. So if anyone does have any actual evidence that you can point me in the direction of, that would be most helpful. I will take a look at it and I will update if there is anything to update on, but I can't find anything. So I think that's untrue. I also think, that, it would be a little bit maybe going against sort of ethics to have a family member involved with that sort of money when you are in that position that you're in. So I'm sceptical that Princess Anne is a trustee or an executor of the will. Also, as I've said before, there is no evidence whatsoever from anywhere that Princess Anne delayed any money. And of course, if she did delay the money, she'd have to have delayed it for all of the great-grandchildren that were involved, that were alive at the time of the Queen Mother's passing. So it wouldn't just be for Harry, because that would be unfair. And if Princess Anne had tried to block the money from Harry, do we not think that Harry would have, had some kind of legal action or contesting that decision? Now, we know that he's very trigger happy when it comes to the legal action. So the fact that there is no legal action kind of says to me that that's a load of nonsense too. So I have no idea where the original source of this information was, but I cannot find any evidence to support it. And I think, people need to be very, very careful what they watch, who they listen to on YouTube, because not everybody, tries to look at the facts and things like I do. A lot of people just like to put out some fake news, some speculation, and then it gets repeated and regurgitated by others, and then it becomes this kind of unofficial folklore, but it's not true. But if you do have any hard evidence, and I'm not talking linking me back to those videos because I don't believe that they are true anyway, but if you have any actual newspaper articles from the Times, from that period that you can link back to, or any evidence, please let me know. Right, I am going to go now. Thank you for watching this video. If you have enjoyed it, please give it a big old thumbs up. Don't forget to share on social media, and of course do hit the bell so that you know whenever I upload a new video. So from me, to you all, and goodbye.